"These belong to me now," Amanda said smugly, her manicured fingers brushing over my mother's antique jewelry box. She turned to me, eyes gleaming. "After all, I'll be the new Mrs. Harrison soon." I stood in the living room of the home I'd built with James, my husband of 15 years, watching this 26-year-old woman stake a claim to my inheritance like it was hers by right. And James. He just stood there, nodding like a spineless puppet. "My name is Olivia Harrison, I'm 42 years old, and I never imagined I'd be standing in my own home, watching my husband's mistress try to take what generations of women in my family had protected." "The jewelry stays with me," I said, calm on the outside, though my heart pounded. That box wasn't just full of gold and gemstones. It held stories, history, strength passed down from my grandmother to my mother, and then to me. Amanda tossed her blonde curls, laughing. "James already promised them to me." "Didn't you, darling?" James avoided my eyes. "Liv," he said, using that condescending tone he'd picked up since meeting her. "Be reasonable. Amanda and I are starting fresh. These pieces should go to the future Mrs. Harrison." Strangely, I felt no anger, only a quiet confidence. After all, I'd spent months preparing for this moment. "You're right," I said, watching their smug faces falter. "Let's check the attic first. There's something up there you'll want to see." Amanda's heels clicked behind me as I led them up the stairs. I'd placed the antique cedar trunk right in the center, its brass fittings gleaming in the dusty light. "Open it," I told James. He hesitated, then slowly lifted the lid. Inside, atop yellowed silk paper, lay carefully preserved documents. Amanda's smirk disappeared. "What is this?" James asked. "The original deed to this house," I replied evenly. "It was left to me by my grandmother, not to the Harrison family, and definitely not to you." Amanda grabbed another document. "This is from 1952. My grandmother's marriage certificate," I nodded. "And the prenup that states all heirlooms are passed down to female descendants only. Legally, everything you're trying to claim is mine." James flipped through the papers, hands trembling. "Why didn't I know about this?" "Because you never asked," I said. "You were too busy planning your perfect new life with Amanda to notice I've been meeting with our family lawyer for months." Amanda's eyes caught a newer document. "What's this?" "An LLC." Smiled. 3 months ago I transferred all inherited assets, this house, the jewelry, everything, into a protected trust. It's untouchable." James turned pale. "You can't do this. We're still married." "Not for long." I pulled one final envelope from the trunk. "The divorce papers are already filed. You'll be served tomorrow." Amanda shrieked. "You planned this. You trapped us." "No," I said, voice calm and firm. "I protected what was mine. Like my mother and grandmother taught me." They kept digging through the trunk, stunned, uncovering generations of airtight legal documents, an unbroken chain that neither James nor Amanda could challenge. "My lawyer will fight this," James muttered. "Let him try," I replied. "The documents have already been verified by 3 law firms and the county registrar. And by the way, our joint accounts. Frozen this morning." Amanda's face twisted in fury. "You vindictive." "Careful," I cut her off. "Say one more word and I'll make sure HR at Harrison & Associates gets the evidence of your office affair. That company policy on non-fraternization is pretty strict, isn't it?" Silence fell over the attic. James looked like he'd aged a decade. I closed the trunk with a firm click. "Time to go," I said. "My house. My rules." As they stumbled downstairs, I heard Amanda hiss. "You said she was weak. Just a trophy wife." I smiled, remembering a line from my grandmother's journal, tucked inside that very trunk. "A woman's strength isn't in making noise, but in being ready when others try to silence her." Downstairs, the jewelry box sat untouched. It was no longer just a collection of heirlooms. It was proof of legacy, foresight, and quiet power. The front door slammed. James's car roared away. I stood alone, victorious. Phase 1 was complete. But I wasn't done yet. The next morning I sat in my study, surrounded by contents from a hidden compartment I discovered just last night. My grandmother had been even more brilliant than I realized. Beneath the false bottom of the trunk were documents that even I hadn't known existed. My phone buzzed with furious texts from James and his family. His mother, Eleanor, was especially loud. "How dare you shame this family? We'll see you in court." I smiled, spreading the aged papers across my desk. If Eleanor knew what I'd uncovered about her family's past, she might think twice. A knock on the door interrupted my thoughts. It was Marcus, our longtime family accountant. "I came as soon as I got your message," he said, settling into a chair. "Are these the papers?" I handed them over. His eyes widened. "This changes everything," he whispered, reaching for his glasses.
All right, go
"Does
ahead
James
and knock
know?"
that in.
"Not
Or
yet," I
take a few
replied.
shots at it.
"But he will soon." The documents revealed a truth that shattered everything I thought I knew. The Harrison family fortune, the very wealth James and his mother had used to belittle me for years, had been built using a secret loan from my grandmother's family. A quiet transaction in 1960 never repaid, with compound interest so massive it would make a modern accountant break into a sweat. Marcus looked up from the papers. "Your grandmother's money saved the Harrisons from bankruptcy. The shares were never transferred back. With the interest and original terms, your family now holds a controlling stake in Harrison and Associates." I leaned back, stunned. No wonder my grandmother hid these records. She wasn't protecting just our family, but theirs too. My phone buzzed. "Amanda, James is devastated. His father's threatening to cut him off. You've ruined everything." Poor Amanda. Still thinking this was about her. "How long to verify all of this?" "Yes. I've already started," Marcus replied. "But Olivia, this could destroy them." I thought of James standing silently as Amanda tried to claim my inheritance. Of Eleanor's years of jabs about my background, never realizing her family stood on my grandmother's generosity. "They need to understand what they're about to lose," I said. "Set up the meeting." The next day, Harrison boardroom. James, Eleanor, and Amanda sat with their lawyer, faces ranging from bored to brittle. "This is a waste of time," Eleanor snapped. "Whatever game you're playing." I slid the documents across the table. "You might want to read these." Their lawyer grew pale as he flipped through the pages. Eleanor grabbed them, her hands trembling. "This is impossible," she whispered. "Father would have told us." "Would he?" "Yes. Would he admit his success was built on someone else's sacrifice?" James read over her shoulder. "These signatures, they're real." "Of course," I said. "My grandmother documented everything. She never planned to use them. She wanted both families to thrive. But you and Amanda forced my hand." Amanda finally spoke. "I don't understand. What does this mean?" The lawyer looked up. "It means the Harrison fortune was never truly yours. Her family owns 60% of the company." Eleanor flushed crimson. "You planned this." "No," I replied. "I found the documents yesterday, in the same trunk that protected my inheritance from your son's scheme. My grandmother left us both something, the truth, and decades of peace you never earned." James stood. "What do you want?" "Money. The house. Name your price. I want you to feel what it's like to have your life decided by someone else. Powerless." "How does it feel, James?" The room went silent. Eleanor cried quietly. Amanda was already sliding her chair away, her golden future fading. "You have 24 hours, I said. "Negotiate or I'll file a legal claim. Your choice." As I walked out, Amanda's voice cracked behind me. "James, maybe we should take a break." Smiled. Phase 2 was complete. That night, I opened the last envelope from my grandmother's trunk, marked, "Only open if all else fails." Inside was a letter and a photograph. My grandmother, young and radiant, standing beside William Harrison. They were holding hands. "My dearest Olivia, if you're reading this, the Harrisons forced your hand. But there's one more truth they must face. A knock broke my thoughts. Eleanor stood in the doorway. She looked smaller. "May I come in?" she asked softly. He nodded. Her eyes landed on the photo. "Where did you get that?" "In the trunk. With this letter." He held it up. She swallowed hard. "He was more than a business partner, wasn't he?" He nodded. "They were in love. She saved his company, but his family forced him to marry someone else. Your mother-in-law. They agreed to keep the truth buried. To protect both families." Tears welled in her eyes. "That explains so much." Just then my phone buzzed again. "James, we need to talk." Alone. Later, garden pavilion. James waited at the spot where he'd once proposed. "Amanda left," he said. "Said she couldn't handle the drama." I handed him the letter and photo. His hands shook as he read. "They were in love," he whispered. "All this time. They wanted both families to succeed together," I said. "But Amanda and you forced this into a war." He slumped onto the bench. "I've ruined everything." "Not yet. Not if we honor what they built. We restructure equal control between our families. Like they intended." "You'd really do that?" "I'm not doing it for you," I said. "I'm doing it for them." Over the following weeks, the company was rebuilt, this time on shared trust. Amanda vanished, chasing her next conquest. Surprisingly, Eleanor became an ally. She worked with me to strengthen the firm. The antique box in my attic hadn't just held papers, had preserved a love story, legacy, a warning. One evening, Eleanor brought me another photo. William and my grandmother, older now, still standing close, still smiling. "They never stopped loving each other," Eleanor whispered. "But they chose to protect their families." I finally understood why my grandmother hid the truth so long. Some truths aren't meant to destroy. They're meant to heal. And sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's letting the truth speak loud enough to make your enemies confront who they really are.